This is the May BPDA board meeting. The Open Public Meeting Law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcast by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications. It is also broadcast on Xfinity Channel 24, RCN Channel 13, and Verizon Fios Channel 1962. You can also view this live streamed at boston.gov/cable. This is the May BPDA annual board meeting, which is being held virtually to ensure the safety of the public, staff members, and the BPDA board members during this COVID situation. And before I take roll call, I would like to acknowledge that Mr. Brian Miller is Governor Baker's new appointment to the BPDA board, and that this is his first meeting. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Priscilla.
I'll now begin the roll call. I, Priscilla Rojas, am present. Ms. Downs?
Present.
Mr. Monahan?
Present.
Dr. Landsmark?
Present.
Mr. Miller?
Present.
Okay. First item on the agenda is election of officers. May I have a nomination for the chair of the board?
I would like to nominate Priscilla Rojas to be chair of our board.
Second.
I would like to second the nomination.
Okay, we will now take a roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it, motion passes. The nomination is approved for Ms. Priscilla Rojas as the chair of the board.
Congratulations.
Thank you. May I have a nomination for the vice chair of the board?
I would like to nominate Michael Monahan to be our vice chair.
Can I get a second?
I will second the nomination.
Okay, we'll take a roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. The nomination is approved for Mr. Michael Monahan as vice chair of the board. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mike.
Okay, may I have a nomination for the treasurer of the board?
I would nominate Carol Downs to be our treasurer.
Can I get a second?
Second. Second.
Taking a roll call. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. The nomination is approved for Ms. Carol Downs as treasurer of the board. Okay. So we are now on agenda item number 2, request authorization for the approval of the minutes of April 16th, 2020. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. I will now take a roll call. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Third item on the agenda, request authorization to extend the tentative designation for Thompson Island Outward Bound Education Center Incorporated for the redevelopment and long-term lease of Berth 10 dock and the adjacent water sheet within the Raymond Elfland Marine Park. Ray.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and congratulations on your election. Thank you, Madam Secretary, Director Golden, and members of the board, and welcome new board member Miller. I'm Ray Panisi. I'm a Senior Real Estate Development Officer in the Real Estate Division. I'm here today to request that the board please vote to extend the tentative designation status of Thompson Island Outward Bound Education Center for EDIC Berth 10 dock and water sheet for an additional 6 months. The leased premises consist of a section of dock, berthing area, security gate, and an adjacent water sheet of approximately 5,100 square feet, including a float and gangway. As you may recall, this organization was tentatively designated at our January 2019 board, and their tentative designation was extended at the November 2019 board. Thompson Island Outward Bound Education Center is a 501c3 nonprofit educational corporation and conservator of Thompson Island and the Boston Harbor Islands. They currently operate a water ferry service from the leased premises to transport over 2,500 Boston area students, school students, to Thompson Island through partnerships for educational programs. They also operate revenue-generating programs and activities on Thompson Island, including weddings, corporate events and functions, and team-building retreats. They propose to redevelop the leased premises with significant improvements to the existing ramp and float system that will allow expansion of their programming. However, in the current COVID-19 environment, their operations have been curtailed for the immediate future, causing them to request a suspension of rent payments under their interim license. We're therefore recommending that the license payments be temporarily halted given the current COVID-19 environment and the fact that Thompson Island Outward Bound is not presently generating any income from activities on the island. This extension will allow negotiations to continue in a way that ensures that this Raymond Elfland Marine Park asset is managed appropriately while also remaining mindful of the long-term need to redevelop this property and also to support a nonprofit waterfront organization. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ray. Do we have any questions from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I will now take roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 4, request authorization to enter into a license agreement with Verizon New England Incorporated for access to all EDIC-owned property to install, maintain, and service appropriate infrastructure to provide internet, voice, video, and data services to all EDIC-owned properties. Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Miller, it's a pleasure to meet you. Look forward to meeting you in person, hopefully soon.
Thank you.
My name's Dennis Davis. I'm the Deputy Director for Commercial Lease, also part of the Real Estate Division. EDIC has entered into similar agreements with other telecom providers as the one we're proposing today with Verizon. The Economic Development Industrial Corporation owns the Raymond Elfland Marine Park, which consists of 200 acres of land and water. Within the Marine Park, there are approximately 4,000 square feet of improvements occupied or under construction, 400 companies, and an estimated 5,000 employees called the Marine Park home. The companies are very diverse, including manufacturers, distribution, research and development, ship repair, concert venue, hotels, and municipal uses. Verizon New England Incorporated is a Bell operating company servicing most of Massachusetts and all of Rhode Island. The proposed license agreement will allow Verizon the non-exclusive access to all EDIC-owned property. As I said before, we've entered into similar agreements with other telecom providers. This license will expedite the delivery of services to EDIC tenants by foregoing a case-by-case negotiation for each individual service request. Access will still be conditioned upon Verizon's receipt of all applicable regulatory permits. The term of the license will be for 10 years and will provide non-exclusive rights to access EDIC property to provide internet, voice, video, and data services. The license will not limit EDIC's right in any way to grant equal access to other providers. The fee will be $75,000 for the first year, which will increase annually by 3%. The fee is based on a rate of $10 per linear foot for the first 7,500 linear feet of fiber or cable installed. The rate is consistent with the market as well as the rate EDAC charges to competing providers. The 7,500 linear foot ceiling was established after extensive negotiations with Verizon. Over the term of the license, BPDA collectively will receive just under $860,000, which will be applied to all property owned by EDIC and the Boston Redevelopment Authority, which we'll speak to at the next board meeting. And that concludes my presentation. Welcome any questions.
Thank you, Dennis. Do we have any questions from the board?
Dennis, how many other companies do we have this type of licensing agreement with?
We have. Sorry, I get some feedback. Comcast, RCN, Light Tower, Crown Castle, and we're negotiating with another company, Extenet, right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions from the board?
No.
Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
We'll now take roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Item number 5.
Where was that? Should have popped up.
Whoa, I think, okay. Item number 5, to adopt a cash investment policy for the management of its available cash assets. Brian. And we're going to pause for a second. Brian, we can't hear you. Okay. Brian?
It wasn't going on. My apologies. I don't know why. Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Polimas, Director Golden, I'm presenting a request to establish a cash investment policy for the agency's cash assets. The Finance Department has been managing the agency's cash assets in compliance with all Massachusetts general laws. However, the agency has been advised by our auditors to develop a more formal cash investment policy that outlines who is allowed to execute investment decisions, the designated investment vehicles, and reporting and oversight activity. After reviewing policy options with our bankers and our auditors, we also explored a variety of examples from municipalities and government agencies. The department decided to craft a policy after the cash investment policy that was recently adopted by the City of Boston. The accounting team modified the policy to make it appropriate for the BPDA by deleting certain language that was specific to the City of Boston. For example, language pertaining to investments in unsecured securities or asset-backed vehicles was removed, while retaining language authorizing the investment in fully secured instruments. As part of the accounting team's continuing efforts regarding the agency's fiscal health, the group developed detailed financial manuals that denote how specific accounting transactions are to be handled. Upon the BPDA board approval, this cash investment policy will be incorporated into those financial manuals.
Great, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the board?
I just wanted to let the public and our fellow board members know that the cash will be invested in short-term, highly secure vehicles with short-term maturity dates. So if we need to liquidate cash, it's readily accessible. And the maturity dates of the different vehicles will be staggered. So at any given time, it will be easy to access cash if it's necessary. So Brian, do you want to talk about that at all?
Our investments, we set up terms called laddering, and they range anywhere from 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, but no longer than 1 year. All of our investments are in either money market funds, certificates of deposits, T-bills, and of course, cash. The majority of the investments are made online. We look at the usual investment percentage announcements from the banks, and then we meet with our bankers to decide what vehicle would be appropriate for the time period.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any further questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I will now take roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs,
Aye.
Mr. Monahan,
Aye.
Dr. Mark,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Item number 6, personnel. Jamie.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. We have only one appointment for your consideration as listed in the EDIC board memo. It's for Megan Rohr in the director's office, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Did you have the time?
Yeah, I'm in the office. I'm just gonna have it up.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. There we go. Okay, we've got everybody muted. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we'll now take roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs,
Aye.
Mr. Monahan,
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we have reached the conclusion of the EDIC's agenda. So I would need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I move we adjourn the meeting.
I second that motion.
Okay. Thank you. And I'll take roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs.
Aye.
Mr. Monahan.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Okay. And the chair votes aye. Motion passes and meeting adjourned. Okay, we'll now begin the BPDA portion of this meeting. The Open Public Meeting Law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcast by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications at Xfinity Channel 24, RCN Channel 13, and Verizon Fios Channel 1962. It's also live streamed at boston.gov/cable. This is the May BPDA annual board meeting, which is being held virtually to ensure the safety of the public, staff members, and BPDA board members during the COVID situation. Okay, I will now take roll call. I myself, Priscilla Rojas, is present. Ms. Downs.
Present.
Mr. Monahan.
Present.
Dr. Landsmark.
Present.
Mr. Miller.
Present.
Okay, we are present. First item on the agenda is election of officers. The BPDA will now hold the election of officers. May I have a nomination for chair of the board?
I would be delighted to nominate Priscilla Rojas as chair of the board.
Second.
I would like to second the nomination.
Okay, we'll take a roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs? Downs? Ms. Downs? Ms. Downs?
Aye.
I could hear you this time. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. The nomination is approved for Ms. Priscilla Rojas as chair of the board. Thank you. May I have a nomination for vice chair of the board?
I would be very pleased to nominate my colleague, Michael Monahan, to be vice chair of the board.
Okay, can I get a second?
I would like to second the nomination.
Great, we'll take a roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs? Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. The nomination is approved for Mr. Michael Monahan as vice chair of the board. Congratulations. May I have a nomination for treasurer of the board?
I am delighted to nominate Carol Downs to be the treasurer of our board.
Okay, can I get a second?
I second the nomination.
Great. We'll take a roll call for a vote. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. The nomination is approved for Ms. Carol Downs as treasurer of the board. Congratulations and thank you. Okay, so now we are going to go to agenda item number 2. Request authorization for the approval of the minutes of the April 16th, 2020 meeting. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
I will now take roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 3, request authorization to schedule a public hearing on June 11th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. or at such a time and date deemed appropriate by the director to consider the proposed Tufts University institutional master plan amendment and renewal. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I will take roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 4, request authorization to enter into a license agreement with Verizon New England Incorporated for access to all BRA-owned properties to install, maintain, and service appropriate infrastructure to provide internet, voice, video, and data services to all BRA-owned property. Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the second part of the presentation I recently presented at the Economic Development Industrial Corporation Board. The Boston Redevelopment Authority owns several million square feet of real estate throughout the city of Boston. Prominent locations include the Charlestown Navy Yard, Long Wharf, and the China Trade Center building at 2 Boylston Street. BRA also owns scores of housing, commercial, open space, and parking facilities throughout the city. Tenants include manufacturers, distribution, research and development, multifamily residential, hotels, recreational marinas, and municipal uses. Verizon New England, Inc. is a Bell operating company servicing most of Massachusetts and all of Rhode Island. This proposed license will allow Verizon the non-exclusive access to all BRA-owned property. BRA has entered into similar agreements with other telecom providers on a site-by-site basis. This license will expedite the delivery of services to BRA tenants by foregoing a case-by-case negotiation for each individual service request. Access will still be conditioned upon Verizon's receipt of all applicable regulatory permits. And it will not limit BRA's right to grant equal access to other providers. Term of the license will be for 10 years and will provide non-exclusive rights to access BRA property to provide internet, voice, video, and data services. The fee will be $75,000 for the first year and will increase annually by 3%. The fee is based on a rate of $10 per linear foot, which is consistent with the market and also consistent with the fee that BRA charges other providers. The 7,500 linear foot ceiling was established after extensive negotiations with Verizon. Over the term of the license, collectively with the EDIC-owned property, the Boston Planning Development Agency will receive just under $860,000. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Do we have any questions from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
I will now take roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs? Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Dennis. Item number 5, request authorization to amend the existing license with Cap Long Wharf LLC for the use of approximately 15,000 square feet of land adjacent to the Chart House Restaurant on Long Wharf for parking use until June 30th, 2020. Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The subject property is a 15,000 square foot vacant lot located south of the Chart House Restaurant on Long Wharf. In 2009, BPDA DRA entered into a lease with Long Wharf LLC, who then owned both the custom block building as well as the building in which the Chart House Restaurant sits. The lot was used for customer by tenants of the custom block building and customers of the Chart House Restaurant. In 2015, Cap Long Wharf LLC purchased the facilities from Long Wharf LLC. Cap Long Wharf LLC is a subsidiary of Capital Properties. The use in the parking lot has remained unchanged. Capital Properties is a privately owned real estate investment, development, and management company founded in Boston in 1977. They've acquired, developed, and managed over 18,000 apartment units and 8 million square feet of office space in major markets, primarily between Boston and Atlanta. In 2019, BPDA extended the license with Capital Properties for 1 year, which now expires on May 31st of 2020. BPDA is currently only considering 1-year agreements with Capital Properties for the parking lot, pending the completion of the downtown waterfront municipal harbor plan, and to ascertain whether the parking lot will be converted into a public park. As you know, the impact of COVID-19 continues to affect commercial real estate. The Chart House Restaurant remains closed and the custom block remains untenanted, with interior tenant improvement projects on hold due to the COVID-19 related construction stoppage. BPDA has the option to recapture the lot and run it as an investment, as we do other parking lots that we own throughout the city. However, the 12-month economic impact of Boston tourism is also unknown, so we have to weigh that as we're making our decision on how to proceed. Staff believes that it's not in BPDA's financial interest to negotiate the terms and conditions of a 1-year extension without more due diligence. Capital Properties actually feels the same. Due diligence will include conversations with Capital Properties on the impacts of COVID on their internal projections regarding the reopening of the Chart House Restaurant and commercial occupancy within the custom block building, as well as a better understanding of the economic projections for Boston tourism and parking demands associated therewith. At this time, we're requesting an extension only for a month through June 30th of 2020 to allow for more thoughtful deliberations. And we're very confident that that will be enough time. We're fully engaged at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Do I have any questions from the board?
Could you elaborate a bit on the agency's thinking on maintaining this as a park and as part of the waterfront resilience planning?
I'm not an expert on the up-to-the-minute status of that, but I am aware from our colleagues in the planning department, Rich McGinnis and Chris Bush in particular, that there is a lot of thoughtful conversation going on regarding the resiliency and the harbor. I don't have a lot of specific details on that, Mr. Landsberg, I'm sorry. But I take it seriously. That's why we wouldn't even consider going beyond a year. We know at the end of the day, that's going to trump anything, I would think, on the parking lot. So for an up-to-date status, we'll get back to you on that. I can ask Rich to talk to you about that.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I will now take a roll call for a vote. Ms. Down. Ms. Down? Ms. Down?
Aye. Can you guys not hear me?
Now we
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. Thank you. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 6. Request authorization to extend the existing license with CHLN Incorporated for the use of approximately 5,375 square feet of land adjacent to the Chart House Restaurant on Long Wharf for seasonal outdoor restaurant seating until August 31st, 2020. Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarity, the previous presentation was specific to BPDA licensing the parking lot to Capital Properties. Charles Restaurant is a subtenant of Capital Properties. Capital Properties owns the building in which the restaurant sits. This would be a recommendation for regarding a license between BPDA directly and the Charles Restaurant. The subject property is 2 parcels of land that immediately abut, literally touch the Charles Restaurant to the north and the south. In 2009, BPDA entered into a lease with Landry's Restaurant, who are the corporate owners of the Charles Restaurant. They're a national restaurant investment company, to utilize both parcels of land that, as you said, they total 5,375 square feet to be used for seasonal outdoor seating. Landry's Restaurant owns and operates hundreds of restaurants throughout the United States. The most recognizable holdings in Boston include Del Frisco's, The Palm, and of course the Chart House Restaurant. In 2019, BPDA extended the license with the Landry's for 1 year, which is now scheduled to expire on May 31st, 2020. BPDA is currently only considering 1-year agreements with Landry's, similar to Capital Properties for the stated reasons I said before with the downtown waterfront municipal harbor plan. We want to keep the options open for that important project. The impact of COVID-19 continues to affect commercial real estate and restaurants in particular. Child House remains closed. In fact, Landry's has closed all of its restaurants throughout the country. The current license is scheduled to expire on May 31st, as I said. We believe that it's not in the agency's financial interest to negotiate the terms and conditions of a 1-year extension in these uncertain conditions. At this time, we're requesting an extension of license term through August 31st of 2020. No fees proposed during the extended period until such time that the Chart House Restaurant reopens with seasonal outdoor seating. In that event, the fee will either be the prorated value of the current monthly rate of $8,062, or we will return to the board with a negotiated new rate. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Do we have any questions from the board?
Given the delayed openings that we're experiencing, Why are we considering the end of August rather than October or November 1st?
The thought was we could always come back and ask for more time if we thought the market was telling us we needed more time in August. There's no, I can't give you an empirical reason why we August versus later in the year. We're not putting any pressure on the Charters to open prematurely. That's for certain.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions from the board?
I just have a quick one for Dennis. Dennis, before it was used for the chart house outdoor seating, do you remember what the area was used for prior?
I'm not completely positive. It was it's over 10 years ago, but I think there were some vendors out there with push carts. That's my recollection.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I do understand that Rich McGinnis is on the agenda shortly after me, so he can wax poetic on the municipal harbor plan far better than I.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Do we have any further questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, I will now take roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs? Ms. Downs, we'll go one more time. Okay, we got a verbal thumbs, a thumbs up from Ms. Downs. So we'll record that, however, you need to do that. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Okay, Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 7, request authorization to enter into a license agreement with the Mills Street Cooperative Incorporated for the use of the BRA-owned land located at 15 Mill Street, parcel P-1A, in the Washington Park Urban Renewal Area Project, Mass R- in Roxbury, for parking of up to 10 cars until November 30th, 2020, with a 6-month extension option. Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 15 Mill Street in Roxbury is a 3,000 square foot lot owned by the Boston Redevelopment Authority. In June 2018, BPDA entered into a license agreement with the Mill Street Cooperative, which is local abutters that use the lot. They're all residents of in the immediate environs of the parking lot. We entered into an agreement with the Mill Street Cooperative to use the lot for 10 off-street parking spaces. The Mill Street Co-op has been utilizing the lot for many years, first licensing it from the BRA in 1986. The current license expires on May 30th of 2020. After a community process, BPDA issued a request for proposals for this lot to sell it for permanent off-street parking, permanently for off-street parking. The RFP process has not yet been completed. However, the license will soon expire. We're requesting a 6-month extension of the license to allow the Mill Street Cooperative to continue to use the parcel as of right during the finalization of the RFP process under the same terms and conditions of the license. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, I'll take a roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 8, request authorization to enter into a license agreement with Boston Real Estate Collaborative LLC for the use of 2,500 square feet of land located at 15 through 21 East Lennox Street in Roxbury for construction vehicle parking to support construction of the One Newcomb Place residential development. Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. East Lennox Street is approximately 2,500 square feet of land owned by Boston Planning and Development Agency, or the Boston Redevelopment Authority in particular. It's being considered as part of a larger site for disposition by BPDA as a housing site in either 2021 or 2022. It's currently vacant and available for short-term use. The site is adjacent to the One Newcomb Place project development site. One Newcomb Place is a 23-unit residential building being developed by Boston Real Estate Collaborative and is currently under construction. Boston Real Estate Collaborative has requested the use of the vacant land to park 6 vehicles during the remainder of the project's construction. They'll use the site for better, they'll also use the site for better delivery and personnel access to the project. It immediately abuts it. Staff is recommending a 1-year term, which will be renewed automatically. However, either party can terminate during the renewal period with 90 days notice. The fee during the first year will be $1,600 per month and will increase by 10% during the renewal period. And during the first year, BPDA will receive a minimum of $19,200. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do I have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I'll take a roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye. Aye.
I heard you and I saw your thumbs up. Thank you, Carol. Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 9, request authorization to ratify and confirm the execution of the Downtown Municipal Harbor Plan Operations Memorandum of Understanding and Development Escrow Agreements, and to take all necessary actions and documents. Rich.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Richard McGinnis. I'm Deputy Director for Climate Change and Environmental Planning. In 2018, the Municipal Harbor Plan was approved by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and requires developers of Harbor Garage and Hook Wharf to provide $14 million to fund waterfront public realm. These investments follow the guidance of the Downtown Waterfront Activation Plan and 7 years of public engagement. Improvements include fulfillment of the New England Aquarium Blueway connector from the Greenway to the water's edge and the conversion of the BPDA parking lot that you discussed at the last couple of votes into new open space. These projects will also include resilient design and address coastal flooding and sea level rise projections for the downtown waterfront. The Operations Board will manage funds, design, and construction of these efforts and is modeled off of a similar structure for the 4-point channel. The Operations Board is made up of the Wharf District Council, Boston Harbor Now, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and the Boston Planning and Development Agency. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Do we have any questions from the board?
Rich, who is going to represent the BPDA on this operations board?
Probably myself and some other staff in the planning department, and also real estate as well.
Okay. Any further questions from the board?
I just have a comment. I want to thank the staff for their work on this. It's obviously a very important initiative for the city, and I think that you're doing very thoughtful work on it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
I'll now take roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs? Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
Item number 10, request authorization to amend the contract for consultant services with Sasaki Associates Incorporated for the 4.100 acres in South Boston open space plan by extending the term of the contract by 4 months and increasing the amount of the contract by $24,650. Rich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last fall, we kicked off our public engagement process to develop, design, and program for the long-planned 7-acre open space for the 4.100 acres planning area. We have hosted 2 well-attended workshops in October and February and continue to engage through surveys and other virtual outreach. We're actually going to work with the Children's Museum and the Boys and Girls Club to get some youth involvement on the park design. We've developed 3 thematic options for these parks, which could be an urban wilderness, flex space, outdoor gallery, or community living room. We're amending the scope to analyze how ground floor uses in these new developments abutting the park can animate and support new parks, and also extend the contract to address the extended public engagement process through our social distancing programming. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, take a roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you, Rich. Item number 11, request authorization to execute a contract with Brightview Landscapes LLC for the landscape services at Shipyard Park and the Charlestown Navy Yard for 2 years in an amount not to exceed $340,000 with 3 one-year extension options. Laura.
Madam Chair, Madam Secretary, and members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to join you virtually today. I'm here to request your authorization to award a contract to Brightview Landscapes LLC for landscape services at Shipyard Park, located in the Charlestown Navy Yard. The initial term of the contract is for 2 years in an amount not to exceed $340,000, with 3 options to extend at the sole discretion of the BPDA. These services help the real estate team manage BPDA property as if we live next door, especially as Bostonians rely on open space like Shipyard Park to maintain their health and social distancing during COVID-19. The 16-acre park has been very busy. Specifically, this contract includes care for the plants, trees, and shrubs in Shipyard Park, along with emptying trash barrels and removing snow. We issued the invitation for bid on March 9th, and the opportunity was advertised in local multilingual publications as well as all legally required postings. 20 companies downloaded the bid documents, and our staff conducted one-on-one site visits at vendors' request based on the public health guidelines that were in place at that time. We received 6 bids prior to the deadline on April 29th. They were open and read aloud at what I believe was the agency's first virtual bid opening, as recommended by the Office of the Inspector General during COVID-19. A huge thank you to our colleagues in procurement, the municipal protective services, operations, and across the entire agency who helped make that possible. Brightview is the responsible and responsive bidder with the lowest total bid price, which is extremely competitive. They've also provided excellent service under the previous contract for these services. Therefore, we recommend award of this contract to Brightview Landscapes LLC. Thank you for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Laura. Do we have any questions from the board?
I have one question, Priscilla. Laura, do you recall if Work Inc. Submitted a bid?
I am 99% sure. Let me pull up the bid tabulation, but no, they did not. We got bids from Brightview, Cassidy Landscaping, Leahy Landscaping, M. Nevis, Beautifying Landscape by J. Michael, and Pathfinder Tree Services. But I'd be happy to follow up with you and let you know whether they were a plan holder, like whether they had downloaded the document.
No, thank you. I was just curious if they actually submitted a bid. I know they were removed from the Rose Kennedy Greenway, that controversial move there. So those people lost their job. So, that would have been a contract that maybe they could have bid on, and maybe we're successful and put those people to work there, you know, that's all. But thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. The real estate team has a lot of different contracts in place, actually, so that we have the opportunity to work with a lot of different folks. And we'll be doing some upcoming solicitations that are around the same area. So we'd be happy to try to find their contact information and include them in our outreach.
Great, thank you. Any additional questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, we'll take roll call for a vote. Ms. Dan?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Laura. Okay, item number 12, request authorization to issue a certificate of completion to TS Lodging LLC for the successful construction completion of the parcel P-7A project located at 240 Tremont Street in the Midtown Cultural District. As this is a certificate of completion, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second?
And we'll take roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 13. Request authorization to approve a change of ownership to JBBM Realty Trust for the previously approved 289 Walk Hill Street project consisting of 106 residential rental units, including 12 IDP units with 126 off-street parking spaces. Lance. And Lance, we cannot hear you. So if you could please just, push the button.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Lance.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Congratulations. Welcome, Mr. Miller, Director Golden, Madam Secretary. Mr. Miller, my name is Lance Campbell. I'm a Senior Project Manager in Development Review. On May 11th, 2017, the BPDA Board approved this residential project located at 289 Walk Hill Street in Rosendale. The original project consisted of 106 residential rental units with 126 off-street parking spaces. The current owner filed a letter with the BPDA on February 14th, 2020, notifying the BPDA of the change of ownership to provided a disclosure statement confirming ownership in order to execute documents necessary prior to commencing construction, The current owner does not plan to make any changes to the proposed project. Staff recommends that the board authorize director to issue a certification of compliance, execute and deliver a cooperation agreement, an affordable housing agreement, and restriction, and any and all other documents. I'd be happy to take any questions from the board. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second?
I'll take a roll call for the vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Lance.
Thank you.
Yes.
Item number 14, request authorization to issue a certificate of compliance under section 80B-6 of the zoning code in connection with the 175 Orleans Street, 151 through 155 Porter Street project, formerly known as the Loftel project, reflecting the change of ownership to Hudson 62 Realty LLC, care of Jamson Hotel Management, the elimination of the 6th level addition for a 6,000 square feet reduction, the reconfiguration of the restaurant and ground level amenity space, the reduction from 127 hotel rooms to 123 hotel rooms, modification of loading bay design on Orleans Street, with an ongoing design review and to take any and all related actions. Raul.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Director Golden, Madam Secretary, members of the board. By way of background, the 175 Orleans Street project, formerly known as the Loftel, was originally approved by this board on December 10th, 2015. The project as originally approved consisted of the redevelopment of the vacant former industrial structure into a 75,000 square foot, 127 room hotel with retail and restaurant space, 65 off-street parking spaces, and included a one-story, 6,000 square foot addition to the existing structure. Since that time, ownership over the site and project changed, and on March 30th, 2020, the current owner, Hudson 62 Realty LLC, submitted a supplemental filing to the BPDA, informing the agency of the change in ownership and summarizing the design review modifications which were made to the project pursuant to the original approval. The design modifications, as outlined in the supplemental filing, include the elimination of the one-story addition, a reduction in the number of hotel rooms from 127 to 123, reconfiguration of the restaurant and retail space, and adjustments to the proposed loading bay. At this time, I would like to hand it over to Richard Lins, counsel for the current owner, who will further the presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Golden, Madam Secretary, and congratulations on your election. My name is Attorney Richard Lins. I represent Hudson 62 LLC with respect to the project at 175 Orleans Street. As Raul mentioned, we are before the board today to provide several project updates as well as request a change in ownership to Hudson 62 LLC. As Raul indicated as well, this project was approved originally back in December of 2015 under Article 8 of the Boston Zoning Code and received variances from the Zoning Board of Appeal thereafter. Since its approval, the property has been sold to the current owner, Hudson 62 LLC, in 2017. During its ownership, Hudson 62 has worked to complete the plans to bring this project to permit, which include the securing of federal and state historic tax credits, as well as working on an agreement for a telecommunications easement that is presently on the property in order to relocate a number of telecommunications antennas to the middle of the roof. And as a result, there's been several design changes that I believe Raul has indicated in the board memo. I'll just summarize those quickly. We did reduce the number of hotel rooms from originally approved at 127 to 123. There is some reprogramming of the ground level space, which includes a restaurant, full service restaurant, and a cafe, as well as eliminating the sixth level, which is about 6,000 square feet. If we could turn to the next slide, I can briefly summarize where we're at with respect to what was approved and what's changed. What we see here is the original approved site plan. Nothing has changed with respect to the footprint of the building, as well as the proposed parking that is on site. Pretty much all of this remains intact. If we could go to the next slide. This is the original approved elevation. We're looking down Porter Street at the corner of Porter and Orleans. Go to the next slide. This would be the Frankfurt Street view with Porter Street closer to the right side of the screen. As you can see, the sixth level that was originally approved is shown in this rendering. Next slide, please. Our updated plan includes preservation of the pretty much the existing structure that's there, as well as some updates which we could see better from the next slide. Showing here the windows that have been updated and changed. This has been done in connection with the securing of the federal and state historic tax credits. Part of this was to include windows that were historically correct for this building. And again, you can see the elimination of the sixth level, where now that will house the telecommunications equipment that's located on the side of the building presently. If you can go to the last slide. Just for reference purposes, this is the ground floor plan. Again, confirming not much has changed other than some slight reprogramming with respect to the lower level restaurant and cafe space. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions from the board.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is
So moved.
Second.
I'll now take roll call for vote. Ms. Downs.
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Money.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Okay, we are going to skip forward to item number 16. Request to adopt the cash investment policy for the management of its available cash assets. Brian.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Secretary Palimas, Director Golden. This is the same matter that I appeared before you earlier regarding the agency's cash investment policy adoption.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Do we have any questions from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I'll take roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs.
Aye.
Mr. Monahan.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Item number 17 has been removed. Item number 18 is contractual. I need a motion to pay the bills.
So moved.
Second.
Take a roll call for the vote. Ms. Downs.
Aye.
Mr. Monahan.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Please pay the bills. So item number 19, director's update. Would you like to do that now, Mr. Golden, or wait until after the public hearing?
Oh, unmuted? Is it unmuted? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great, thank you. So I'll deliver the director's report now. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation and the option. Madam Chair, and through you to the members, I'd like to first welcome Mr. Brian Miller, our newest board member, who was appointed to the Boston Planning and Development Agency's board by Governor Charlie Baker in recent days. Brian is a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley and founder of the Miller Group, Morgan Stanley, which advises local organizations on their retirement plans. For 10 years, Brian served on the Labouré Center Advisory Board in South Boston and co-chaired the organization's capital campaign. He was a founding trustee and finance chair of the Boston Collegiate Charter School and former president of the South Boston Residents Group. Brian also served as finance chair for Congressman Stephen Lynch. A lifelong resident of South Boston, Brian currently serves on the South Boston Academy School Board. I'd also like to congratulate Ms. Priscilla Rojas for being elected chair of the BPDA board. She is our first female chair, our first Latina chair, and both of these things are occurring for the first time in the 63-year history of the agency. So an important milestone for all of us. And I congratulate Mike Monahan for being elected as the new vice chair of the BPDA board, and Carol Downs for re-election as treasurer of the board. I thank you all for your continued service and stewardship of this agency. Today's board meeting was the second meeting that we have held virtually in response to the guidance to protect members of the public, the staff, and the BPDA's board members in light of the COVID-19 public health emergency. As always, today's board meeting was televised and live streamed on boston.gov, where it can be viewed right now, as well as in the days and weeks to come. Only projects that do not require or have completed their community process were brought to the board for consideration today. I thank the BPDA staff for their diligence in preparing for this go-to-webinar virtual meeting and for ensuring that members of the public have the opportunity to provide input and comment in our upcoming public hearing that will take place an hour from now. That allows both live and written testimony to be offered by the public. We've been working from home, as you know, for the most part, since March 17th of this year. While we've postponed all BPDA-hosted public meetings regarding Article 80 projects and planning studies, staff continues to review projects internally. Comment periods for projects that were under review have been extended. At this time, we are not holding virtual public meetings. I commend the many staff members and thank them for finding creative ways to continue to engage with stakeholders and residents. We're committed to keeping projects moving forward as best we can during this time in a safe and effective manner, and will continue to review projects electronically. For instance, while the BPDA cannot issue design review approvals at this time, the BPDA Urban Design Department is in fact preparing projects for design review approval when appropriate. On May 5th, the Boston Civic Design Commission, the BCDC, held its first go-to-webinar virtual meeting, which allowed for remote public participation. And I encourage all who are interested in these activities and these processes to log on to our website, bostonplans.org, to get the most updated information on our ongoing and evolving work during this time. I'm committed to communicating with our own staff regularly. We've been streaming weekly live virtual all-staff meetings. We just finished our 8th meeting a couple hours ago, and it allows us an opportunity to speak to each other, to share information. Staff can submit questions ahead of time or ask their questions live through the virtual meeting during the meeting. We distribute also a weekly internal newsletter with information and updates on the city's response efforts to the COVID crisis. And we've shared information with staff every week about volunteer opportunities throughout the city. I'm particularly grateful at the willingness of our staff members to go beyond their specific job description and do whatever is needed to help the city and the city's people during this difficult time. A few words about the BPDA and City of Boston's COVID relief efforts. According to this agency's research department, the national unemployment rate hit 14.4% for the month of April. That has certainly continued to increase during the month of May, but the numbers in April were 14.4%. In Massachusetts, almost 1 million workers filed unemployment claims between March 15th and May 2nd. The number was 962,000, and that number continues to increase. These unemployment claims represent 47% of state workers in services such as personal care, repair and maintenance, and household employees. These unemployment claims include 39% of state workers who work in accommodations, lodging, and food services. The unemployment numbers include 34% of state construction workers and 28% of the state's workers in retail, the arts, entertainment, and recreation. Boston workers in these hard-hit industries are more likely to be low income. They're more likely to be renters with high housing cost burdens. They're more likely to be foreign-born and self-employed. To that end, the city's response to COVID-19 has included several efforts here at the local level to help individuals and small businesses impacted during this extraordinarily painful time. First, the Boston Resiliency Fund was created by the mayor to coordinate fundraising and philanthropic efforts to provide essential services to Boston residents whose health and well-being are most immediately impacted by COVID-19. The Resiliency Fund has raised over $30 million from 5,800 donations to date. $17.5 million of this fund has been distributed to nearly 200 organizations that deal with issues such as food access, technology for remote learning, and support to first responders. As of last week, the city's Small Business Relief Fund has distributed the first $2 million of relief to 561 local businesses in the industries hardest hit by COVID-19. Business owners are using the money to cover rent payments and utilities, vehicle payments, insurance, and employee wages. The city has added another $5.5 million to the fund in recent days. This will allow all eligible grant requests that were submitted during the application period to be fully funded. Next, the Rental Relief Fund. It has made $3 million available to residents who have lost income and do not have access to unemployment benefits. The city has been processing applications, and this week will distribute over $820,000 to more than 300 families to cover rent for April, May, and June. Additional funds will be distributed for this purpose in the weeks to come. Finally, yesterday at his press event, the mayor announced the creation of a stimulus hotline. This hotline seeks to address the needs of residents having difficulty navigating their way to federal stimulus payments that are being made to individuals and families all over the nation. The hotline is staffed by the Boston Tax Help Coalition, a partnership within the Mayor's Office of Financial Empowerment with nonprofits, businesses, and community organizations. The Office of Financial Empowerment is, of course, an instrumentality of the Mayor's Office of Workforce Development and the Boston Planning and Development Agency. The hotline was put in place yesterday and has already, 24 hours later, received more than 600 calls seeking assistance. Our own staff have once again stepped up and are playing a role in volunteering on the stimulus hotline. I want to thank the many BPDA staff members who've been deeply involved in all these efforts I just mentioned and volunteered to assist their time with the city's COVID-19 response. That concludes my remarks, and I look forward to joining you again for the public hearing still to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Golden, and through you to the staff. Again, as a board, we continue to appreciate your leadership, staff, and for your creativity and agility and the countless hours of volunteer service that you're providing to the city of Boston. So thank you. What is going to happen now is we are going to take a brief recess. We have one item remaining on the agenda, and that is a public hearing, which will be scheduled to start at 5:30. So for those of you watching, we will resume the meeting then. And we'll take a brief pause. Hello, and welcome back to the BPDA board meeting for May. We will be resuming with agenda item number 15. Request authorization to adopt a minor modification to the Government Center urban renewal area with respect to the Ames building redevelopment located on parcel 6 at 1 Court Street to allow for institutional use, including but not limited to student housing dormitory use, to issue an adequacy determination pursuant to section 80D-5.4C of the zoning code, approving the Suffolk University 2020 institutional master plan and associated map amendment, to petition the zoning commission for approval of the proposed IMP, to issue a scoping determination waiving the requirement for further review pursuant to section 80B-5.3D of the code, approving the project notification form dated September 26, 2019, and the supplemental information document dated January 31st, 2020, and waiving the requirement for the filing and review of a draft project impact report subject to BPDA design review for the conversion to a 300-bed dormitory, 2,200 square feet of publicly accessible ground floor retail cafe space abutting the Washington Mall, as well as secured student loans, to execute a first amendment to the land disposition agreement and to take all related actions.
Madam Chair, you need to read the chairman's statement as well.
Yes.
Oh, Priscilla, you're muted. Priscilla?
Proposed petition by the agency. Staff members will first present their case and are subject to questioning by members of the agency. Thereafter, anyone who wishes to testify about the proposed project will be afforded an opportunity to do so. We are taking support and opposition at the same time. The combined testimony is different from our usual format due to the hearing being held virtually and all testimony being recorded accurately. If you are planning to testify, please take time now to verify that your computer microphone is active. Then click the green hand on your webinar control panel, which will signal to staff that you would like to testify. When I call for all testimony, staff will announce your name and unmute your microphone. Your webcam will not be active. At the conclusion of all oral testimony and any emailed testimony will be read aloud. Finally, the proponents are allowed a period of 5 to 10 minutes for rebuttal if they so desire. In an effort to accommodate all who would like to speak about this proposal, each person will be given up to 2 minutes to comment. BPDA staff will indicate when 30 seconds remain, and at that time, please conclude your remarks so that the hearing may continue and others may be heard. Edward Carm will now...
Madam
Yes.
Chair, I need to interrupt you.
Okay.
We lost the first half of what you read. We
Okay.
could not hear you, so I actually need you to repeat it.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Should I start from the, just read the, start from the beginning?
Start the chairman's statement.
Okay, perfect. Okay, this is a public hearing before the Boston Redevelopment Authority, doing business as a Boston Planning and Development Agency, being held in conformance with Article 80D of the Boston Zoning Code regarding the Suffolk University 2020 Institutional Master Plan. The hearing was duly advertised on April 30th, 2020 in the Boston Herald. This is a BPDA hearing on a proposed petition by the agency. Staff members will first present their case and are subject to questioning by members of the agency. Thereafter, anyone who wishes to testify about the proposed project will be afforded an opportunity. We are taking support and opposition at the same time. The combined testimony is different from our usual format due to the hearing being held virtually, and all testimony will be recorded accurately. If you are planning to testify, please take time now to verify that your computer microphone is active. Then click the green hand on your webinar control panel, which will signal to staff that you would like to testify. When I call for all testimony, staff will announce your name and unmute your microphone. Your webcam will not be active. At the conclusion of all oral testimony, any email testimony will be read aloud. Finally, the proponents are allowed a period of 5 to 10 minutes for rebuttal if they so desire. In an effort to accommodate all who would like to speak about this proposal, each person will be given up to 2 minutes to comment. BPDA staff will indicate when 30 seconds remain. At that time, please conclude your remarks so that the hearing may continue and others may be heard. Edward Carmody will now begin the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, and Director Golden. My name is Eddie Carmody, and I'm an institutional planner and project manager here at the BPDA. The proposal before you is the Suffolk University Institutional Master Plan for the years 2020 through 2030. The university is seeking approval of the plan along with its marquee proposed project, the One Court Street Residence Hall. The Institutional Master Plan covers the development goals of Suffolk University for the next 10 years, and it outlines aims for enrollment and student housing, among others. The One Court Street project, a component of the Institutional Master Plan, seeks to convert the existing historic Ames building located in the Government Center area of downtown Boston, and most recently used as a hotel, into long-term undergraduate student housing for the university. The community review process began in September and concluded in March. There has been widespread support from the public throughout this time. For one thing, providing long-term dedicated student housing in this downtown location brings residents to an area currently dominated by the 9-to-5 work week schedule, helping to support local businesses and keeping eyes on the street beyond traditional hours. This location also represents a continued effort by the university to transition its student housing outside of nearby residential neighborhoods, such as Beacon Hill in the North End, and closer to the core of its campus. These efforts have been appreciated as a win-win by everyone involved. At this time, I will turn it over to John Nucci from Suffolk University, and he will walk through the presentation. We will be happy to take any questions you might have afterwards. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity to be here, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Golden. We very much appreciate all the work that went into making this opportunity possible. We do appreciate it quite a bit. And we certainly hope that you and your families are getting through this difficult time as we all are trying to do right now. What I hope to do is to walk us through both our institutional master plan as well as the One Court Street project. Our institutional master plan was developed in coordination and cooperation with BPDA as well as elected officials, neighborhood groups, and other relevant stakeholders of Suffolk University. And our One Court Street project is one that we think provides a state-of-the-art residence hall for our students, steps from our main campus, and also further Mayor Walsh's goals to help free up housing opportunities in our neighborhoods by pulling those students from those units. Next slide. We, in terms of living, working, and connecting, we are looking to increase, as I said, student housing opportunities. Our One Court Street project moves us closer to our goal of housing 50% of our undergraduate students in Boston. We hope to contribute to Boston's economic vitality by continuing to develop and nurture working relationships with businesses and continuing to be generous in our community benefits to our impacted areas. And we want to optimize space usage by establishing a greater and stronger sense of campus in the downtown Boston area, enhancing the Boston Bike Share program through the benefits that we are providing for the One Court Street project, and also activating the streetscape even further in the theater district with development of the 515 Washington Street ground floor space. Next slide. The agenda here quickly is to take a look at the last 10 years since approval of our last master plan in 2008 and what has occurred, to take a quick overview of the 2020 IMP, and to focus on the One Court Street Residence Hall project that has happened since the PNR filing. Next slide. If you, during the development of the 2008 master plan, the core planning principle throughout all of that, working with neighborhood groups and elected officials, especially the Beacon Hill Civic Association, was to try to develop a plan that would move the center of gravity of our campus away from residential Beacon Hill and into the downtown spine, so that we'd create a campus that is more of a downtown spine leading into the theater district and the Ladder district. We were able to do that, as you will see in the next couple of slides. Since the 2008 master plan, we have also added athletic facilities in East Boston with a wonderful partnership with the city of Boston that has worked both for the community of East Boston, but also for Suffolk University as well, because we now have home fields for many of our athletic teams. We also, during the past 10 years, have been able to increase opportunities for housing for our students. We brought online the 10 West Residence Hall with 274 beds. We brought online the Modern Theater Residence Hall with 200 beds. And we brought on for 2 years a residence hall at 1047 Commonwealth Avenue with 368 beds. Next slide. Our footprint in 2008, I think, says a lot when you compare it with the next slide, which will be our footprint today. If you look at the upper left-hand side of the map, you'll see properties on what is Temple Street and Dern Street, which were at that time in 2008, the academic center of the campus. Those were our academic buildings. As I mentioned, because we were looking to move that core center of gravity away from residential Beacon Hill, we were able to move away and sell those properties and put those functions into other buildings, which I'll show you in a second. You will see next to that a proposed building at 20 Somerset Street, which we developed and is now open as an academic and science center. And you will see at the bottom down by Avery Street or West Street, you'll see proposed residence halls, 10 West Residence Hall and Modern Theater. Next slide. Looking at 2019, what you see is that those Beacon Hill properties are gone. We disposed of those assets. We opened a building to the right of it at 20 Somerset Street, which is our academic and science center. And we successfully brought online, as I mentioned, down in the theater district, the 10 West and Modern Theater residence halls. In the lower right-hand corner, you will see as an inset our athletic fields in East Boston, which, as I mentioned, were also brought online during that 10-year period. Next slide. Again, another illustration of how we were able to move away from residential Beacon Hill and transfer our academic functions previously in the Beacon Hill properties to 20 Somerset Street, and administrative and academic functions to our building at 73 Tremont Street. This has been something that I think has really worked very well with the Beacon Hill community, and we see it as a fulfillment of our promise of the last master plan. Next slide. Looking at the 2020 master plan, what we have tried to do, and again, we've worked closely with neighborhood groups on this, is we have tried to identify projected areas of future expansion for the university. And in doing so, what we've tried to identify are expansion clusters, which basically represent those areas where we think we are likely to bring on new facilities when and if we feel that we need them. And if you look at the clusters, you'll see 3 of them in the downtown Boston area between Washington and Tremont Street. These are essentially influenced by the same clusters we identified in 2008. In fact, the clusters that we identified in 2008 proved to be particularly accurate because the One Court Street project is located right within one of them. So we accurately were able to predict where we were going to be undergoing that expansion with a residence hall. And in the middle, you'll see a central academic cluster. That's the home to our major academic facilities. And the One Court Street project, of course, is steps from that. So that sort of gives us a picture and a planning context for the next 10 years in terms of where we might put additional facilities. Next slide. I think it's important to take a look at student enrollment and to point out a couple of things, just a couple of phenomena that have occurred. Between 2002 and 2006, what you'll see is a pretty significant growth in enrollment. I'll point out that these are Boston campus undergraduate numbers. They don't represent law school or graduate students or students in other campuses. These are Boston campus undergraduates. Significant growth between 2002 and 2006. As we came to the point when we were negotiating and working with neighbors on a 2008 master plan, we reached agreement that we would essentially plateau and flatten out our enrollment. As you can see, we did that. We fulfilled that promise. We flattened out that enrollment. And as we project out in the out years of the 2020 to 2030 master plan, you can see that essentially we're projecting the same. I will point out these are enrollment projections prior to COVID-19. So obviously, there may be some changes in this as we look ahead. We just don't know that right now. Next slide. One of the topics of interest that we hear all the time, not just from residents, but from city officials and others, is the impact of off-campus student residences. Not just the impact on neighborhoods surrounding the university, but also the impact on availability of housing in our neighborhoods for families and working people. Just wanted to point out some trends that we've noticed in the past 10 years. Numbers of our students who are living off campus in Beacon Hill has gone down by 23%. The number of students living in the North End has gone down by 23%. Chinatown numbers, they're small numbers, but they've gone up. And by far, the biggest increase that we have seen in off-campus housing for our students is in East Boston. And there are a number of reasons for that. One, of course, is probably economic, that it is still relatively affordable. The other being, of course, the easy access to the campus by public transportation from East Boston. So that is a phenomenon we have seen, and we are working closely with the East Boston community on managing that increase. And of course, we'll continue to try to provide as much university-sponsored housing as we possibly can to house those students. Next slide. We'll look at two things now. One is the new student dormitory at 1 Court Street. The other is the space at 515 Washington Street that I mentioned. Next slide. The 1 Court Street Residence Hall, 114 rooms, up to 300 beds of undergraduate student housing, primarily first and second year students. Approximately 2,200 feet of active ground floor uses, some for student use, but also a publicly accessible retail and restaurant cafe space. We intend to continue to have a restaurant in the space that has currently housed a restaurant while it was the Ames Hotel, and we expect that and want that to be used by our students, but also by the public as well. We have no major changes to the site or the building access or service. We are looking for 2 dedicated parking spaces in front of the building for Suffolk University police purposes, and we anticipate an opening by fall 2020. I do want to point out right here that it's important to say that while we plan to be open in September, exactly what form that will take still remains to be determined. And it will be determined by the course of the COVID-19 virus and what our responses as a city has to be to that. We understand that. The university will be relying on directives from public officials, from public health officials and others as we move closer to the beginning of the semester to try to figure out exactly what will look like. We do totally understand that a number of decisions remain to be made, and we look forward to working with city and state officials to doing that. So that still lies ahead of us in terms of September 2020, and we just want you to be aware that we are fully aware of that. Next slide. Just to give you familiarity of the location, although you probably don't need it, most everyone knows where the Ames Hotel was and therefore knows where 1 Court Street is. It is located at the intersection of Court Street and Washington Street. It is bounded on the other side by the New England Veterans Center and the Washington Mall leading to City Hall and City Hall Plaza on the building's right. Next slide. The existing conditions are essentially, as it was set up for a hotel, a restaurant on the right-hand side of the building and common space and lobby space in the middle. Next slide. These are photos of the existing conditions of the building. We are well aware of what a historic and beautiful facade this is, and it's one of the things that attracted us to this building. It is a signature building, I think, in Boston, and we all certainly recognize that. So those are various perspectives on the facade and the building itself. Next slide. In this slide, you'll see a conceptual rendering of what we intend to do. We are making no changes to the exterior of the building whatsoever, other than the signage package that we have received approval for by the Boston Landmarks Commission and the Massachusetts Historic Commission. If you look at it, you'll see that there is some Suffolk University signage on the canopy above the front door, some flags that will be installed on mortar joints on the building, not on the building itself, so it doesn't penetrate the facade and do any damage to the facade. And again, these are approved by Boston Landmarks and Mass Historic Commission. Next slide. This is a look at the Washington Mall side of the building. You'll see an outside patio that was used by the Ames Hotel restaurant. We intend to continue to use that for our restaurant. And this would be the signage on that facade, again, approved by the Boston Landmarks Commission and the Mass Historic Commission. Next slide. I'll take a look at the floors, and there's really only a couple to look at, and the rest are essentially the same. The first floor is one where we have activity. On the first floor, you'll see on the left, you'll see some student lounge space. In the middle, you'll see common areas, entrance and security desk and so forth. And on the right, you will see our restaurant. And further to the right, you'll see the patio extending from that, which we intend to use. That patio seats up to 60 people, again, pre-COVID seating, but it will seat up to 60 people, and we will keep that functioning. Next slide. The second floor is going to be a space that's for institutional use and also for community use. It is essentially a multi-function student lounge, conference space concept. We've talked to community groups about this. They understand that they will be able to use that space, and it will obviously also be used for university purposes, for students, staff, and others for meetings as well. And that will be the second floor of the building. Next slide. The rest of the building, essentially from the 4th to the 14th floor plan, is laid out in this fashion. They are residential rooms. They are basically hotel rooms, which we're not changing. We are doing some renovations to those rooms. We're ensuring some ADA compliance in some areas, security features, electrical wiring, things like that. But the rooms will essentially stay the same, with some very small exceptions, such as a space for a residence director on one of the floors and that type of thing. So this is floors 4 to 14. They are the residential areas of the building. Next slide. Just a look at one of the typical rooms, although there are a number of different layouts, but this would be one of them. Next slide. The other space change that's in our master plan, as I mentioned earlier, is new gallery space at 515 Washington Street. 515 Washington Street is the ground floor of our 10 West Residence Hall. It used to be the Boston Common Coffee Shop, which has since left. We are going to change that space into gallery space for our art programs, for students to display their works, but also to have it available for other community groups and art groups to display their works as well. Behind that gallery space, there will be some rehearsal space for university dance clubs and our theater department. From the street, we think this is going to be a very active and attractive, good use for that space, and is going to contribute to the already existing vitality of the theater district. So we're looking forward to this. Next slide. Finally, our benefits. I'm happy to say that we have recommitted to every one of our IMP benefits from prior IMPs. All of them remain in place and operative. We haven't changed or eliminated any of them. And we have added additional benefits for the One Court Street process, which are the first 4 benefits that you see here. A $75,000 contribution to the Boston Bike Share program. Streetscape improvements by working with BPDA and seeing if feasible. There's a way to implement a curb extension at Court Street to facilitate pedestrian access. Transportation mitigation, we will donate $10,000 to the installation of additional on-street bike racks, and we will provide 18 on-street visitor bike racks in and around the building. So we think that this is a robust benefits package, and we feel very important about it, and we look forward to putting it into place and continuing to put those existing benefits into place. Last slide. Again, revisiting the first slide, hopefully you can see how this moves us closer with the addition of the One Court Street Residence Hall to getting to our goal of 50% of housing for our Boston students. And it gets us to continue to contribute to our surrounding areas, to our impacted areas with community benefits and relationships. And it helps us to establish a stronger sense of campus and bring some additional revitalization and vitality to the theater district. With that, I close. And again, I really do want to thank you very, very much for this opportunity to be here today, given how much work and went into this. And it means a lot to us, and I appreciate it a great deal. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. And yes, this is a new format, so just wanted to go over some of those rules here. So again, if you're planning to testify, you'll need to kind of verify that your computer microphone is active. You'll then click the green hand on your webinar control panel, which will signal to the staff that you would like to testify. So that is how you can participate. And we are going to begin the public testimony. So we ask that you please announce your name and affiliation and your position for the proposed project, whether you're in support or in opposition. So with that, I will hand it over to our first testimony.
Currently, Madam Chair, there is nobody who has indicated a desire to testify. Oh, excuse me, I just got a hand. His name is Michael Burns.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Michael.
Yep. Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Secretary, Director Golden, other board members. First, I'd like to congratulate all of you on your new positions, and also Mr. Miller on his new appointment. I hope you all, and those close to you, are doing healthy and well in these certainly difficult times. Again, for the record, my name is Michael Burns. I'm a business representative for the Sheet Metal Workers, Local 17, and our umbrella organization, the Metropolitan Building Trades Council. I rise tonight on behalf of my membership in support of this project, and I thank you all, and I hope you all stay healthy and well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, do we have any other raised hands?
We do not have any other raised hands.
Okay, so now, Eddie, do we have any written testimony that should be read into the record?
Yes, we do. I cannot share my video right now, but hopefully this will suffice.
That's okay. Hear you.
Oh, here we go. So we have 3 pieces of written testimony, which I will read on behalf of those who sent them over. The first one is, I will read on behalf of City Councilor Flynn, and it reads as follows. I wish to indicate my support for Suffolk University's proposed conversion of the former Ames Hotel into a residence hall which would accommodate up to 300 students. It is critical that universities continue to increase the number of students in university housing in order to free up badly needed units for families in our neighborhoods. The university has reached out well to elected officials and neighborhood groups and has generated overwhelming support for the project. Suffolk University continues to be a good neighbor in the city of Boston, exhibited most recently by their turning over a residence hall at 10 Somerset Street for use as a shelter for homeless individuals during the COVID-19 crisis. I respectfully urge the board to approve the project this week. Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact my office and I. And it is signed Ed Flynn. So the second piece of public testimony that I have to share is on behalf of the Downtown Boston Business Improvement District, and it reads as follows. Dear Mr. Carmody, on behalf of the Downtown Boston Business Improvement District, I would like to offer my support for Suffolk University's proposed 2020 through 2030 IMP and One Court Street Residence Hall project. Over the past 3 decades, Suffolk University, along with other key pioneers such as Emerson College and MP Boston, has helped catalyze the renaissance of downtown crossing with a number of landmark redevelopments. The 150 Tremont Street and 10 West Street residence halls, 120 Tremont Street, also known as Suffolk University Law School, and Modern Theater have each contributed to the district's ongoing transformation and revitalization into a 24/7 hub and destination. Now, with its One Court Street proposal, Suffolk University is not only building upon its prior success in the area, but also envisioning a project that will bring a variety of benefits to various stakeholder communities. Students residing at One Court Street will be immersed in one of Boston's most vital nodes, the City Hall and Government Center Plaza area. There, commerce, culture, politics, and mass transit converge in a uniquely dynamic mix, all in the shadow of historic shrines such as the Old State House and Old South Meeting House, the crucibles of our nation's founding. Student residents of One Court Street will also enjoy convenient access to the rest of Suffolk University's downtown campus, creating a new synergy and vitality for the entire neighborhood. The community will also appreciate Suffolk University's initiative to reactivate an iconic architectural gem, the Ames building, that was at risk due to the prior occupant's closure. This reactivation should also help reanimate the Ames building's street-level presence. Finally, I want to congratulate Suffolk University for having worked diligently on the community outreach process for this project. I also applaud the school for having identified and acquired a property that is so uniquely suited for this conversion. For all these reasons, I support this proposal. The Downtown Boston bid is a private, not-for-profit corporation that provides supplemental services in downtown Boston, designed to benefit property owners, businesses, visitors, students, and residents. It is committed to achieving downtown's full potential as a premier economic center and vibrant mixed-use neighborhood. And this letter is signed Rosemary E. Sansone, the president and CEO of the Downtown Boston bid. And the final piece of public testimony that I have to share is on behalf of a private individual, and it simply states, "Great idea and will revitalize downtown. I endorse. Thanks." So that is the extent of the written testimony that we have received.
Thank you, Edward. Appreciate that. Just want to check in with Secretary Polhemus. Do we have any further virtual hand raises?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So now I will ask our board members, do you have any questions for the developer? Okay.
I have a very brief comment to John and all of the folks at Suffolk. Relocating a campus slowly and progressively and methodically away from a residential neighborhood and into the middle of a business and financial and government area is, to the best of my knowledge, really unprecedented. I just cannot think of any other college or university in America that is in a slow and steady way, rather than simply picking a campus up and relocating into a downtown, done as an interesting and progressive job of satisfying a lot of community needs at the same time that it is meeting the needs of both downtown and East Boston. And I think you're doing a terrific job here. And I just want to commend you as a person who's been involved with higher ed for several decades for having found a way of meeting the university's needs, satisfying the city's need, and also enhancing the communities where you folks are located. So I think you've done a great job with this project.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lansbach. It's much appreciated.
Okay, great. Do we have any other questions from the board or comments?
Madam Chair, I have a comment. Sorry, Brian. I could not agree with Ted more. For 20 consecutive years, I've been on this board or the ZBA, and I've witnessed firsthand Suffolk University doing exactly what Ted said, always taking the neighborhood into account. And John, you left out the Suffolk Law School. And they've been slowly, like Ted said, methodically moving and transferring real estate really out of the neighborhood at a lot of the Beacon Hill residents' request. And they've done a tremendous job. And at the same time, with my other hat, John, Suffolk has always hired contractors that don't discriminate, whether it be race or gender. They get paid the same. All of the construction workers have health care. All of the construction workers have a pension, retirement plans, and they all are indentured into an apprentice program. And it's similar to what Mr. Burns said from the trade. And you should be commended for it. I tell you, you people have never blinked and always hired employers that provide those decent benefits that some of us take for granted. But in the construction industry, it's not that common. And it comes at an expense, and I know many people appreciate it. And thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I would just add that we really feel as though we have an obligation to be a good citizens of the city, and we take it very serious. And I thank you for recognizing that. Thank you very much.
Great. I just had one piece to add, and Ted, you said it so well, and Mike, your follow-up was perfect, but I'm an abutter at 53 State Street. It's a beautiful building. But John, what you and the university have done in an area that is so tight really deserves to be commended. So I really like what you've done there and look forward to seeing it develop.
Thank you, so are we.
Great. Any further questions or comments? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I will take roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. Congratulations. Okay, and that was the final agenda item for our meeting today. So thank you all for participating. Stay safe, stay healthy. And I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, now I'll take a roll call for the vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much. Welcome, welcome, Brian, to the BPDA board.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.